If you've ever been treated like the family punchline when you were actually fighting for your life, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. My name is Jordan Blake, and for 5 years my family told everyone I was faking a congenital heart defect for attention. What they didn't know was that while they were mocking my imaginary illness, I'd built a $156 million medical technology company that manufactured the exact cardiac monitoring devices keeping me alive. And the cardiac surgeon they humiliated me in front of? He was my business partner, my best man, and he'd been documenting their abuse since the day he saved my life. But let me start from the beginning. I was born with a rare congenital heart defect, anomalous coronary artery from the pulmonary artery or ALCAPA. Most babies born with it die in infancy. I survived because my body developed collateral circulation, creating alternative pathways for blood flow. But it left my heart weak, my exercise tolerance limited, and my future uncertain. Growing up, I was the kid who couldn't keep up in gym class, who sat out during family hiking trips, who needed rest breaks when everyone else was fine. My parents, both athletes, both obsessed with fitness and achievement, were perpetually disappointed. "Push through it, Jordan," Dad would say. "Pain is weakness leaving the body." Mom was worse. "You're letting your condition define you. Other kids with worse problems still play sports." My younger brother Kyle was their golden child. Star football player, track champion, full ride to USC. Everything I wasn't. I made it through college by carefully managing my energy, avoiding stress, and seeing cardiologists regularly. I graduated from Stanford with a degree in biomedical engineering, got a good job at a medical device company in San Francisco, and thought I'd finally proven I could succeed despite my limitations. Then at 27 my collateral circulation failed. I was in a business meeting when my heart basically short-circuited. Severe chest pain, couldn't breathe, collapsed. My colleagues called 911. I woke up in UCSF Medical Center with Dr. Marcus Chin, chief of cardiac surgery, explaining that I'd had a critical ischemic event and needed emergency coronary artery bypass surgery. "Your heart's been compensating for 27 years, Dr. Chin explained. But the collateral pathways have degraded. Without surgery you'll have another event within weeks. It will likely be fatal." I had the surgery. 5 bypasses. 18 hours in the OR. Dr. Chin literally rebuilt the blood supply to my heart. I called my parents from the cardiac ICU the day after surgery, still intubated, communicating through writing because I couldn't speak yet. Dad's response when he finally visited 3 days later? "Well, at least now you have a real excuse for being out of shape." Mom added, "The surgery's done. You should be fine now. No more dwelling on your heart." Kyle didn't visit at all. He texted, "Sucks bro, but I've got finals. Catch you when you're better." That should have been my warning. The surgery was successful, but recovery was brutal. I needed cardiac rehab, intensive monitoring, medication adjustments, lifestyle modifications. I had to quit my job. The stress levels were literally life-threatening for someone with my cardiac history. I moved back to Sacramento to recover near family. Catastrophic mistake. Within a month, the narrative shifted from "Jordan had necessary surgery" to "Jordan is milking his surgery for attention." I had to wear a cardiac event monitor, a device that continuously tracked my heart rhythm and would alert emergency services if I had another event. It was visible under my shirt, wires leading to electrode patches on my chest. Kyle started calling it my victim badge. At family dinners he'd point at the monitor bulge under my shirt and laugh. "Still wearing that thing? Dude, the surgery was 6 months ago. Move on." Dad began questioning whether I really needed the monitor. "The doctor said you're recovered. Why are you still acting disabled?" "I'm not acting disabled. I have a legitimate cardiac condition that requires monitoring," I explained for the 100th time. "You're 28 years old," Mom said. "Your brother runs marathons. You can barely walk upstairs without complaining. Maybe if you exercised more." Exercise could trigger another cardiac event. My cardiologist specifically. "Your cardiologist is probably just covering himself legally," Dad interrupted. "Doctors always exaggerate risks." They started refusing to accommodate my medical needs. When I asked if we could avoid the Brazilian steakhouse for dinner, the high-fat, high-sodium menu was dangerous for cardiac patients. Dad said I was controlling the family with fake restrictions. When I had to cancel on Kyle's birthday party because I'd had an arrhythmia episode and needed to stay near medical facilities, Mom told extended family I'd bailed because I'm jealous of Kyle's success. The worst part was how they treated my cardiac events. I had 3 significant arrhythmia episodes in the first year post-surgery. Each time my monitor alerted emergency services. Each time I ended up in the ER for monitoring and medication adjustments. Each time my family acted like I was staging medical emergencies for attention. After the third event, which happened at a family barbecue when Dad insisted I help move heavy furniture despite my protests, Mom actually said to me in the ear, "If you were really having heart problems, you'd be in worse shape. You're conscious and talking. This is anxiety, not cardiac." The ER cardiologist overheard. "Ma'am, your son's monitor recorded ventricular tachycardia lasting 43 seconds. That's a life-threatening arrhythmia. He's lucky he's conscious." Mom just rolled her eyes. That was 3 years ago. That's when I stopped telling them anything real about my life. What my family didn't know was that those ER visits and cardiac events taught me something crucial. Existing cardiac monitoring technology was inadequate. The monitor I wore was clunky, uncomfortable, obvious, and had a 15-second delay in emergency alerts. 15 seconds might not sound like much, but in ventricular tachycardia, 15 seconds can mean brain damage or death. I could design something better. During my recovery periods, the hours when I felt well enough to focus, I worked. I used my biomedical engineering background and my intimate knowledge as a cardiac patient to design a next-generation cardiac monitor. Smaller, more accurate, faster alert times, integrated with both emergency services and personal smartphones. I called it CardioGuard. I built a prototype using my savings and a small business loan. I tested it on myself. I was already being monitored constantly anyway. The device caught arrhythmias 3 seconds faster than traditional monitors. 3 seconds that could save lives. I reached out to Dr. Chen, the surgeon who'd saved my life. He was immediately interested. "Jordan, this is revolutionary," he said, examining my prototype. "The delay time in current monitors is one of the biggest challenges in cardiac event prevention. If you can reliably cut that to 3 seconds, you'll change cardiac care." Dr. Chin became my mentor, my medical advisor, and eventually my business partner. He helped me navigate FDA approval processes, connected me with investors interested in cardiac technology, and introduced me to other cardiac patients willing to test CardioGuard. He also started documenting something else: my family's medical abuse. "Jordan, the stress they're putting you under is dangerous," Dr. Chin said during one of my follow-up appointments, 6 months into development. "Psychological stress is a major trigger for cardiac events in post-surgical patients. I've reviewed your event monitor data. All 3 of your significant arrhythmias occurred during or immediately after family interactions." He showed me the data. My heart rate would spike during family dinners. My rhythm would destabilize when my parents called. The barbecue incident where Dad made me move furniture? My monitor had recorded dangerous heart rhythms for 2 hours afterward. "This isn't just family conflict," Dr. Chin continued. "This is medical neglect. They're creating conditions that trigger life-threatening events, then mocking you for having those events. In California, that's elder abuse law territory. You're a dependent adult due to your disability." "They're my family," I protested weakly. "Family doesn't endanger your life and call it motivation," Dr. Chin said flatly. "I'm documenting everything. If they ever push this too far, you'll have evidence." Meanwhile, CardioGuard was succeeding beyond my projections. Clinical trials showed 47% reduction in cardiac event fatalities among users, almost entirely due to faster emergency response times. We received FDA approval within 18 months. Within 2 years, we had contracts with 12 major hospital systems. I hired a team of 8 employees, several of whom were cardiac patients themselves. I structured the company to allow flexible work schedules around medical needs. No one should have to choose between their health and their livelihood. Within 3 years, CardioGuard Medical Technologies was valued at $156 million. We'd manufactured over 50,000 monitors. We'd saved an estimated 237 lives through faster emergency response. My personal wealth reached $3.4 million annually between salary and stock options. I bought an accessible condo near UCSF Medical Center, close to emergency care elevator building, cardiac rehab facilities nearby. Dr. Chin became more than a business partner. He became my best friend, the brother I wished I'd had instead of Kyle. And I told my family nothing. Why? Because I needed to know if they'd love me without success. If they'd believe my heart condition was serious even when I wasn't rich. If they'd support me when they thought I had nothing to offer. I already knew the answer. But I wanted to watch them prove it one more time. The wedding invitation came 18 months ago. Kyle was marrying his college girlfriend, Amber. A sweet woman who'd always been kind to me, who seemed unaware of how my family treated me. The invitation came with a note from Mom. We expect you to attend without making it about yourself. No medical equipment visible, no talk about your condition, and please try to look healthy. This is Kyle's day. I almost declined. But Dr. Chin convinced me otherwise. Jordan, I've been documenting their abuse for 3 years, he said during my quarterly cardiac checkup. The stress-triggered events, the mockery, the medical dismissal. I've got 22 documented instances where their behavior directly correlated with dangerous cardiac events. He showed me the file. It was extensive. Recorded phone calls where Dad questioned my need for monitoring. Text messages from Mom suggesting I was addicted to victim status. Social media posts from Kyle mocking his invalid brother. I want to go to this wedding, Dr. Chin said. Not as your doctor, as your friend. Kyle doesn't know I'm your surgeon or business partner. If they publicly dismiss your heart condition again, I want permission to intervene. Why would you do that? I asked. Because you're my friend. Because what they're doing is dangerous. And because I'm tired of watching families kill their disabled relatives through tough love. I gave him permission. I also told him he'd be my best man. At the wedding I'd someday have, when I found someone who loved me despite my heart condition. He laughed. Deal. But first, let's make sure you survive your brother's wedding. I also contacted my lawyer, Elizabeth Park, who'd helped structure my company. I need you on standby at the wedding. If things go the way I think they will, I'm finally ready to set boundaries. Elizabeth had been pressuring me to pursue legal action for over a year. She'd compiled evidence of fraud. My parents had opened credit cards in my name during my recovery period, racking up $63,000 in debt. They'd claimed it was for medical expenses they'd paid. They hadn't paid a single medical bill for me. I'll be ready, Elizabeth said. One call and I'll bring the documentation and the authorities. The wedding was held at a vineyard in Napa Valley. 200 guests, extended family friends, Kyle's football teammates, Amber's sorority sisters. I wore a suit tailored to hide my cardiac monitor, though the device was still visible if you knew what to look for. I couldn't remove it. My cardiologist's orders were non-negotiable. One missed event could be fatal. Dr. Chin arrived with his wife, Dr. Sarah Kim, a neurologist. Kyle had met Dr. Chin once at a Stanford alumni event and invited him, having no idea he was my surgeon. Kyle thought he was just networking with a prominent cardiac surgeon. Elizabeth was in a hotel 3 miles away with a police detective, Officer Rodriguez, who specialized in elder abuse and financial crimes. She'd been building a case based on my documentation. Your family has committed multiple felonies, Elizabeth had explained. Identity theft, financial exploitation of a dependent adult, reckless endangerment through medical neglect. The moment they publicly disparage your condition while you're wearing a medical device that proves its severity, we have grounds for criminal charges. I didn't want revenge. I wanted them to understand what they'd done. I wanted consequences that matched the harm. But I also wanted to be done. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. The wedding ceremony was beautiful. Kyle and Amber looked happy. I sat in the back monitoring my heart rate on my phone. The CardioGuard app showed real-time data. Elevated but stable. Weddings were stressful but manageable. The reception started smoothly. I found a table in the corner, away from the dance floor noise that could stress my system. Dr. Chin and his wife joined me, providing a buffer from family. Then Dad spotted me. He walked over with Uncle Frank and 2 of Dad's running club friends. Jordan, why are you hiding in the corner? Come celebrate with the family. I'm fine here. Less noise, better for my heart rate. Dad laughed. Your heart rate? Jesus, Jordan, you had surgery 5 years ago. When are you going to stop using your heart as an excuse to avoid life? Uncle Frank added, your brother ran a marathon last month. You can't even stand at your own brother's wedding. I have a congenital heart defect that required 5 bypass surgeries, I explained calmly. Standing for extended periods increases cardiac workload. My cardiologist. Your cardiologist is probably billing your insurance for unnecessary follow-ups, Dad interrupted. This whole cardiac patient identity you've built is getting old. I touched my chest instinctively. My monitor had vibrated slightly, alerting me to an elevated heart rate. The stress was affecting me already. Mom approached with Aunt Linda and 3 of Kyle's groomsmen. This was escalating. Jordan, we need to talk about your behavior, Mom said loudly. Several nearby tables turned to look. You've been sitting here like a victim all evening. This is your brother's wedding. Can't you pretend to be normal for one night? I'm being normal for someone with my condition, I said, keeping my voice level. I'm managing my health responsibly. Kyle joined the growing circle, drink in hand, already tipsy. Bro, seriously? You're making this about you again? Can't you just be happy for me? I am happy for you. I'm just sitting quietly. With that thing, Kyle gestured at the slight bulge of my monitor under my shirt. You're still wearing that victim badge. Dude, it's been 5 years. Get over it. My heart rate spiked. My phone buzzed. CardioGuard alert. Elevated heart rate detected. Stress response noted. Consider removing yourself from stressor. I stood up to leave. Dr. Chin stood too, ready to escort me out. But Dad blocked my path. No. You don't get to make a dramatic exit and ruin Kyle's reception, Dad said. You're going to stay here and explain to everyone why you're still pretending to be sick. I'm not pretending. Then Dad did it. He turned to face the entire reception, raising his voice over the music. Everyone, can I have your attention? The DJ cut the music. 200 people turned to look. I want to address something that's been a problem in our family for years, Dad announced. My son Jordan has been claiming to have a serious heart condition. He had surgery 5 years ago, which was successful, but he's been using that surgery as an excuse to avoid work, to get attention, and to make everything about himself. My heart was pounding. My monitor vibrated again, warning pattern detected. He's lying about his heart, Dad continued, pointing at me. Pure manipulation. He's not disabled. He's lazy. Mom nodded enthusiastically. Jordan's problem is psychological, not cardiac. He's addicted to the sick role. He needs therapy, not coddling. Kyle laughed. Yeah, my brother's great at playing the victim. Should have been an actor. Uncle Frank pulled out his phone. I'm actually posting about this on the family Facebook group. We need to stop enabling Jordan's delusions. I touched my chest. My monitor was vibrating continuously now. Concerning rhythm detected. My CardioGuard app showed my heart rate at 142 BPM, irregular pattern, potential arrhythmia developing. Dr. Chin stepped forward. Excuse me, he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a scalpel. I'm Dr. Marcus Chin, Chief of Cardiac Surgery at UCSF Medical Center. The room went silent. Kyle's face went pale. He suddenly recognized Dr. Chin as more than just a networking connection. Dr. Chin walked toward my father. I performed Jordan's coronary artery bypass surgery 5 years ago. 5 bypasses to correct anomalous coronary artery from the pulmonary artery, a congenital defect he was born with. Dad's mouth opened. But he recovered. The surgery fixed. The surgery saved his life, Dr. Chin interrupted. But Al-Kappa patients require lifelong monitoring. Jordan wears a cardiac event monitor because he's had 3 episodes of ventricular tachycardia post-surgery. That's a life-threatening arrhythmia that can cause sudden cardiac death. He pulled out his tablet, showing something to the crowd. These are Jordan's cardiac event records from the past 5 years. Would you like me to read them aloud? That's private medical information, Mom stammered. Jordan gave me explicit consent to disclose this information in situations where his medical condition is being publicly dismissed, Dr. Chin said coldly. He looked at me. Jordan. I nodded, one hand still pressed to my chest. My heart was racing. Dr. Chin pulled up a document. Jordan Blake had his first post-surgical cardiac event on June 15, 2020. Ventricular tachycardia lasting 38 seconds. It occurred 2 hours after a family barbecue where, according to his event notes, His father insisted he help move heavy furniture against medical advice. Dad's face drained of color. Several guests were filming on their phones. Second cardiac event, September 3, 2021. Ventricular tachycardia lasting 43 seconds. Occurred during a phone call with his mother who was, and I quote from Jordan's notes, screaming that I'm faking my disability for attention. Mom started crying. That's out of context. Third cardiac event, March 22, 2022. Sustained ventricular tachycardia lasting 51 seconds. Occurred at a family dinner where Jordan's brother publicly mocked his cardiac monitor. This event required emergency cardioversion. Kyle's drink slipped from his hand, glass shattering on the floor. I've documented 22 instances where your family's psychological abuse directly triggered stress responses that elevated Jordan's cardiac risk, Dr. Chin continued. In cardiac patients with Jordan's history, psychological stress is as dangerous as physical exertion. Your behavior has triggered 3 potentially fatal events. Your abuse worsened his condition by approximately 60%. He turned to face the entire reception. Anomalous coronary artery from the pulmonary artery has a 5-year post-surgical survival rate of 83%. Jordan is lucky to be alive. He requires continuous monitoring because sudden cardiac death is a real, documented risk. Amber, Kyle's bride, looked horrified. Kyle, you told me Jordan was exaggerating. I thought, Dad said, Kyle stammered. Dr. Chin pulled up another screen. But here's what you really need to know. While you've been calling Jordan lazy and manipulative, he's been building something extraordinary. He turned the tablet to show the screen. CardioGuard Medical Technologies website, featuring my face and title, Jordan Blake, founder and CEO. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to prove your invisible disability was real, because what happened next shocked everyone. The cardiac monitor Jordan wears? He designed it, Dr. Chin continued. CardioGuard monitors are now used in over 300 hospitals nationwide. They've saved 237 lives through faster cardiac event detection. He pulled up another screen. CardioGuard Medical Technologies is valued at $156 million. Jordan's personal net worth is approximately $3.4 million. He built this company while managing a life-threatening cardiac condition that you claimed didn't exist. Mom collapsed into a chair. Dad's face went from pale to gray. But wait, Dr. Chin said, his voice hardening. There's more. Jordan didn't just build a company while you mocked him. He also paid off your credit card debt. He looked at my parents. Remember the $63,000 in credit cards you opened in Jordan's name during his recovery, claiming it was for his medical expenses? Dad's hands started shaking. Jordan discovered the fraud 2 years ago. Did he report you? No. He paid off the debt himself to protect his credit score because he needed good credit to secure business loans. You committed identity theft against your disabled son and he covered for you. Dr. Chin pulled out a folder, his documentation weapon. I have records of every fraudulent charge. Every text message where you dismissed his cardiac events. Every social media post where Kyle mocked his brother's disability. Every phone call where you questioned his need for monitoring. He turned to my parents. California Penal Code 368, Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse. Jordan qualifies as a dependent adult due to his cardiac disability. You've committed financial exploitation, physical abuse through medical neglect, and psychological abuse. These are felonies. Uncle Frank tried to slip away. Dr. Chin called after him. Frank Blake, you've posted on social media 37 times about Jordan faking disability. That's defamation and disability discrimination. California law allows civil action. My phone buzzed insistently. CardioGuard alert. Arrhythmia detected. Emergency services notified. Remain calm. Dr. Chin saw my screen. His face shifted from righteous anger to medical concern. Jordan, sit down. Now. I sat, my vision swimming. My heart was doing something wrong. I could feel it, that distinctive fluttering sensation I'd learned to recognize as ventricular tachycardia. Dr. Chin was beside me instantly, checking my pulse. Sustained VTach. Conscious but compromised. Sarah, call it in. His wife was already on the phone. This is Dr. Sarah Kim. We need paramedics at Meadowlark Vineyard, main reception hall. Cardiac patient in ventricular tachycardia, Conscious, monitor confirmed. Patient has Al Kappa surgical history. The room erupted in chaos. Guests started backing away. Some were filming. Others were crying. My father stood frozen, watching his son having a cardiac event he just claimed was fake. Paramedics arrived within 4 minutes. The vineyard was required to have them on standby for events this size. They confirmed VTACH, loaded me onto a gurney, started in 4. Dr. Chin rode in the ambulance, still in his wedding attire. "You're going to be fine, Jordan. Your monitor alerted us fast. You designed it well." Through the ambulance window I saw my family standing in the vineyard parking lot. Mom was sobbing. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. Kyle was arguing with Amber, who was clearly furious. I heard Dr. Chin on the phone. "Elizabeth? It's Marcus. It happened. Jordan's stable, but we're transporting to UCSF. The family just publicly dismissed his cardiac condition at a wedding reception, triggering a documented VTACH episode. Time to make the calls." I was in the cardiac unit for 36 hours. The VTACH was controlled with medication adjustments. Dr. Chin stayed the entire first night, partly as my doctor, partly as my friend. "That was the most dramatic best man speech I've never given," he joked when I was stable enough to laugh. While I was hospitalized, Elizabeth moved forward with everything. Within 24 hours, my parents were formally questioned about identity theft and dependent adult abuse. Officer Rodriguez had been waiting for exactly this scenario, a public incident where their abuse directly caused medical harm. Dad was arrested at his home. The charges: identity theft, felony; financial exploitation of a dependent adult, felony; reckless endangerment, misdemeanor. Bail set at $50,000. Mom was charged as an accessory: financial exploitation, psychological abuse of a dependent adult. Bail set at $25,000. Kyle wasn't charged criminally, but he received a cease and desist order for defamation and disability discrimination. His social media posts mocking my cardiac condition were compiled as evidence for civil proceedings. Within 48 hours, the story hit regional news. Family triggers son's cardiac event after publicly claiming heart condition was fake. Victim is multimillionaire medical tech CEO. The news footage included wedding guest testimony. Amber's maid of honor gave an interview. I watched Jordan's father publicly humiliate his son, claiming he was faking a heart condition. Then I watched that son collapse in cardiac arrest while wearing a medical monitor that proved everything was real. It was horrifying. Within 72 hours, Kyle and Amber's marriage was annulled. Amber filed the paperwork herself. According to mutual friends, she told Kyle she couldn't be married to someone capable of that cruelty toward family, especially disabled family. Uncle Frank's employer, a corporate HR firm, fired him after his defamatory Facebook posts went viral. Disability discrimination by an HR professional is terminally incompatible with our values, their statement read. Within 1 week, my parents' house went into emergency sale. The legal fees, bail, and restitution demands exceeded their savings. The house I'd grown up in sold at a 20% loss within 3 weeks. Within 2 weeks, extended family fractured. My mother's sisters cut contact with my parents. My father's brothers issued a public apology to me on Facebook and announced they'd be testifying in my favor if needed. Within 1 month, plea deals were offered. Dad pled guilty to identity theft and financial exploitation. 18 months in county jail, 5 years probation, $127,000 restitution, fraud repayment, my medical costs they'd promised to pay but didn't, legal fees, permanent restraining order. Mom pled guilty to financial exploitation. 1 year in county jail, 3 years probation, $48,000 restitution, permanent restraining order. Kyle settled the civil defamation suit for $180,000, the maximum his insurance would cover. His football career aspirations ended when the settlement became public. Teams avoided him due to character concerns. The wedding venue refunded Amber's deposit in full and issued a public statement supporting victims of family abuse. Dr. Chen's testimony in my case was damning and irrefutable. His documentation of stress-triggered cardiac events, his recordings of my parents dismissing my condition, his expert testimony about the medical dangers of their behavior. It destroyed any defense they attempted. It's been 11 months since the wedding. I haven't spoken to my parents or Kyle since the ambulance doors closed. The restraining orders remain in effect and I've never been more at peace. My parents served their jail sentences and are now on probation. Dad works as a warehouse supervisor. His finance career ended with the felony conviction. Mom works retail for the first time in her life. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment in the same complex where Uncle Frank now lives after his divorce. Kyle moved to Arizona to escape the stigma. Last I heard, he's working in construction and trying to rebuild his life. Amber remarried. Someone who apparently treats her better than my family treated me. My company continues thriving. We've expanded to 19 employees and launched CardioGuard 2.0 with AI-powered event prediction. Valuation reached $203 million. We've now saved over 400 lives through faster cardiac event detection. I'm dating someone I met through a cardiac support group. Alex has a congenital heart defect too, different from mine but equally serious. He understands the monitors, the medications, the limitations, the fear. He's never once questioned if I'm really sick enough to need accommodation. Dr. Chin remains my best friend and business partner. He's also my actual best man. I proposed to Alex 3 months ago and the wedding is next spring. Dr. Chin jokes that his speech will be much less dramatic this time. My extended family members who apologized have been allowed back into my life on a probationary basis. My aunts, my father's brothers, several cousins, they've proven through consistent action that they believe me, support me, and respect my boundaries. The relatives who stayed loyal to my parents? They're no longer part of my life. I don't miss them. My parents tried reaching out through their probation officer 4 times in 8 months. Each message was some variation of, "We understand now. We're so sorry. Please forgive us." I never responded. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. 2 months ago, Dad had a minor heart attack. Ironic considering he spent years claiming heart conditions were exaggerated. Multiple relatives contacted me trying to guilt me into visiting. I sent flowers to the hospital. The card read, "Wishing you the medical support and family compassion you denied me. May your cardiac event monitor be more accurate than your perception of mine." I didn't visit. I don't plan to. Some people think I'm cruel. That family should forgive family. That I'm holding a grudge. But here's what those people don't understand. My family didn't just hurt my feelings. They triggered 3 potentially fatal cardiac events. They committed financial crimes against me while I was disabled. They created stress conditions that my cardiologist calculated worsened my cardiac outcomes by 60%. They didn't just refuse to believe me. They actively endangered my life and mocked me for nearly dying. I don't owe them forgiveness that looks like access. I don't owe them the comfort of knowing I've moved on, in a way that absolves their guilt. I owe myself protection. I owe myself a life surrounded by people who believe my cardiac monitor isn't a victim badge. It's a life-saving medical device. Last month I spoke at a cardiac patients conference. 300 people with congenital heart defects, all fighting for understanding, for accommodation, for dignity. I told them my story. I showed them the photo from Kyle's wedding. The moment Dr. Chin stood up, the moment my family's faces changed, the moment before I collapsed into VTach. And I told them what I wish someone had told me 5 years ago. Your cardiac condition is real. Your limitations are valid. And you don't owe anyone access to you while they're endangering your life. You're not lazy. You're not manipulative. You're not exaggerating. You're surviving with a heart that's literally trying to kill you, and that makes you stronger than they'll ever understand. Build your life anyway. Build your success anyway. Build your happiness anyway. And when they finally see your cardiac monitor was real all along, you don't have to look back. The room gave me a standing ovation. Those who could safely stand. Others raised their fists, their hands to their chests where their own monitors sat. A room full of people who understood. That's my family now. As for my biological family, I hear they're struggling. Dad's warehouse job barely covers their rent. Mom's retail wages aren't enough. Kyle's construction work is inconsistent. They lost everything. Their reputation, their financial stability, their son and brother. Because they chose denial over acceptance. Pride over empathy, mockery over medical reality. Sometimes I wonder if they finally understand that my cardiac monitor wasn't a prop. If Dad realizes the irony of having his own heart attack. If Kyle grasps that his brother's victim badge was actually keeping him alive. But mostly I don't think about them at all. I'm too busy living the life they said my heart was too weak to build. My company will generate $31 million in revenue this year. We'll save hundreds more lives through cardiac monitoring technology. We'll employ people with disabilities who bring expertise no able-bodied engineer could match. And I'll do it all while managing a congenital heart defect my family claimed was imaginary. That's not revenge. That's survival. That's proof that they were wrong about everything. I'm not a faker. I'm not a victim. I'm not manipulative. I'm a CEO, a cardiac patient, a fiancé, a friend. I'm a person with Al Kappa who built something extraordinary despite everyone saying my heart wasn't strong enough. And if my family ever sees this story, I hope they finally understand. You didn't break my heart. You tested it. And my heart, though damaged, though monitored, though one beat away from failure, was strong enough to survive you and build something you never believed possible. If you've ever had to prove your invisible disability was real to people who should have believed you from the start, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done? Does any of this feel familiar? And if you're currently dealing with family who won't believe your chronic condition, document everything, get medical professionals on your side, protect yourself legally, and remember, your condition is real even if they deny it. Your success will be the validation they refuse to give. Subscribe for more stories about people who built empires while everyone doubted them. Because sometimes the best response to your faking is surviving long enough to prove them catastrophically wrong.